I was loading groceries into the trunk when my daughter tugged my sleeve and pointed across the parking lot. "Dad." "Who is the man in Mom's car?" Her voice was small, almost frightened. I looked up just in time to see the taillights fade into traffic. My wife wasn't supposed to be anywhere near this side of town. Not on a Tuesday. And the man in the passenger seat looked straight at me. I didn't move at first. I just stood there with a carton of eggs in one hand, and my daughter's small fingers gripping the other, watching the car disappear between a line of trucks. It felt like my mind lagged a few seconds behind my eyes, like the image needed time to settle before the meaning hit. My wife's blue sedan, her license plate, her shape behind the wheel, and a man beside her, turning his head just enough for me to see the outline of his face. Clean cut, younger. No attempt to hide. If anything, he looked almost curious, as if he wanted me to see him. "Dad?" my daughter whispered again. Why was Mom here? I didn't know how to answer her. I didn't even know how to answer myself. My wife Emily worked across town and usually took lunch at her office. She also carpooled most days. Tuesdays especially. She never, not once in 21 years, had a reason to be at the Crestview Plaza, and certainly not with some man I'd never seen before. I closed the trunk slowly, trying to stall for time, trying to find air that didn't feel heavy. Maybe she had an errand. I said, my voice sounding thin, even to me. "We'll ask her when we get home." My daughter didn't look convinced. She was only 11, but she had Emily's eyes, sharp and observant. Too observant. She kept staring at the road like maybe the car would turn around. "Dad?" she said quietly. Mom wasn't smiling. That part lodged in my chest. I had noticed it too. Emily's face had been stiff, almost locked forward, like her hands were glued to the steering wheel. The man, whoever he was, leaned back casually, one arm draped across the seat. I tried to shake it off. Tried to tell myself there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe a coworker needed a ride. Maybe her phone had died. Maybe she didn't see us. Except my daughter had waved, and the man had looked right at me. We drove home in silence, the groceries rustling in the back seat every time I took a turn too sharply. My daughter kept glancing at me, waiting for the version of me who always had answers to appear. But I didn't have any. Not for this. When we pulled into the driveway, Emily's car wasn't there. That, more than anything else, made my stomach drop. She wasn't just out running errands. She wasn't ahead of us on the road. She was still wherever she'd been, with whoever that man was. Inside, I tried to distract myself by putting groceries away, but my hands kept fumbling. A can slipped from my grip and clattered to the floor. I swore under my breath. My daughter lingered in the doorway. "Dad, are you mad at Mom?" "No," I said too quickly. "No, sweetheart. I'm just tired." She didn't buy it. Kids never buy the lines we hope they will. She went upstairs, leaving me alone in the kitchen. I leaned against the counter and took a long breath. I told myself to trust my wife. I told myself 21 years of marriage meant something. But the truth was, for the past month, Emily had been different, distracted, forgetting things, jumping when the phone rang. And twice now, she had come home later than she said she would, brushing it off with vague explanations that didn't quite match the look in her eyes. At the time, I convinced myself I was overthinking, that middle age made everyone a little restless, that stress at work might be getting to her. But now, seeing her car, seeing that man, seeing the way she gripped the steering wheel like she was bracing for impact, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. I went to the living room, sat down and stared at my phone. I should call her, I thought. I should just ask. But another part of me, a part I wasn't proud of, wanted to wait to see what she'd say first, to see if she'd lie. The clock on the wall clicked softly. 5 minutes, 10, 15. No message, no text, no call. At 6:42 p.m., the sound of a car pulling into the driveway cut through the quiet. I stood up before I realized I had. Emily's footsteps came up the porch. The door opened. "Hey," she said, dropping her keys into the bowl like she always did. "Too casual. Too normal. Sorry I'm late. Traffic was a nightmare today." That was it. Nothing else. No mention of the plaza. No mention of the man. No hint of a reason why she'd been across town. I watched her walk into the kitchen and pick up a grocery bag, pretending she didn't notice the tension thickening the air. "You got everything we needed?" I swallowed. "Yeah." She nodded and kept working. For a moment, I just stood there, studying her profile. Emily wasn't a good liar. She chewed her lip. She blinked too much. She looked away too quickly. And she was doing all of it right now. "Finally," I said. "Ember, you at Crestview Plaza today?" Her hands froze. Just a beat. Barely noticeable. But I noticed. "What?" she asked. Lightly, turning back to me. "Why would I be there?" "I saw your car," I said. "You drove right past us." A long silence followed. Her face didn't move, but something in her eyes tightened. "That wasn't me," she said quietly. "Someone else must have a similar car." My jaw tensed. "Our daughter saw you." She took a breath. Steady and slow, like she was preparing for a difficult patient. Emily was a nurse, and I recognized the tone. "I told you it wasn't me." "Who was the man sitting beside you?" I asked. That got her. The color drained from her cheeks. I stepped closer. "Emily, look at me." But before she could answer, before anything could fall apart completely, my daughter called from upstairs. "Dad! Mom! Can you come here? It's important." Emily and I stared at each other for a moment. A moment where the truth sat between us, like a living thing. Then we both went upstairs. My daughter was sitting on her bed, holding something in her hands. A small black device. "Where did you get that?" Emily asked. Her voice sharper than I expected. "In your glove box," my daughter said. "It fell out when I went to get my jacket." Emily's face went pale. I stepped closer. The device wasn't small, actually. It was rectangular, with a tiny lens, a dashcam. "Dad," my daughter said, her voice trembling. "There's a video on it, from today." Emily opened her mouth as if to speak, but no words came out. I sat beside my daughter, reached for the dashcam, and pressed play. Static. Then a moment of black. Then the interior of my wife's car. Emily driving, and beside her, the same man. Younger, calm, too calm. Then he leaned toward the camera, his voice low and deliberate. "Does he know yet?" Emily didn't answer. My stomach tightened into a knot. The man smiled, not at Emily, at me, at the camera, at whoever would eventually watch this. "Tell him," the man said softly, "or I will." The video ended. Emily let out a broken breath, like she'd been holding it for hours. I looked at her. "Emily," I said. "What's going on?" Her lips trembled. And then she said the words that made my knees weaken. "He's not who you think he is, and neither am I." For a moment, I didn't understand what she meant. The words hung in the air without meaning, like she had spoken in a language I once knew but hadn't heard in decades. My daughter looked between us, her eyes wide and unblinking. Emily sank down onto the edge of the bed, her shoulders collapsing inward, hands clasped like she was bracing herself. "Emily," I said slowly, "what does that mean? Who is he, and what do you mean you're not who I think you are?" She didn't answer right away. She stared at the dashcam sitting in my lap, like she wished she could pull the footage out of it with her bare hands and make it vanish. Finally she whispered, "I didn't want you to find out this way." "Find out what?" My voice cracked. "Emily, tell me." She closed her eyes. "He's not new. I've known him for a long time." I blinked. The room felt suddenly smaller, the air warmer. A long time. My mind jumped to the obvious conclusion. The one any husband would fear. But something about the man's calmness in the video, his deliberate message, made the situation feel larger than infidelity, darker, more complex. My daughter, still sitting close to me, whispered, "Mom, are you scared of him?" Emily's eyes flicked open, and for the first time that evening, they filled with fear, real fear. "Yes," she said. Something cold slid down my spine. "Emily," I said, keeping my voice level for our daughter's sake. "You need to explain." She swallowed hard. "Not here. Not with her listening." I looked at our daughter, then back at Emily. "She's already involved, Emily. She saw him. She knows something's wrong. You can't protect her by hiding things." My daughter nodded, clutching my arm. "Mom, please, just tell us." Emily covered her face with her hands. "I didn't want him near either of you. I thought if I did everything he said, he'd leave us alone." That sentence hit me like a blow. "What did he make you do?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood abruptly and walked out of the room. I followed, leaving our daughter behind for a moment, though her quiet footsteps soon trailed us. Emily paced the hallway like an animal trapped in a cage, her breath coming in shallow bursts. "He showed up 4 weeks ago," she said finally, "outside the hospital after my shift. He knew my name. He knew yours. He knew where our daughter went to school. Everything." I felt myself stiffen. "Who is he?" She shook her head. "He used a different name last time." "Last time?" I repeated. "You said he's not new. How long have you known him?" She stopped pacing. Her voice dropped to almost nothing. "Since before I met you." The hallway felt suddenly colder. I realized I hadn't blinked in a long time. "Emily, are you saying you knew him? Romantically?" "That he was no," she said quickly. "Not like that. It wasn't a relationship. It was a mistake. A part of my life I never wanted tied to our family." "A mistake?" I echoed. "What kind of mistake?" She rubbed her hands through her hair. "He wasn't supposed to find me again." The phrasing chilled me. Find me again. Not bump into, not reconnect. "Find Emily," I said slowly. "Has he threatened you?" She nodded almost imperceptibly. "What did he threaten you with?" She hesitated too long, then murmured, "Something I kept hidden, something from when I was 19. That age hit hard. 19 was when most people were barely adults, making dumb decisions, trusting the wrong people, unaware of what consequences might follow them years later." My voice softened, despite the storm inside me. What did you do?" Her chest rose and fell too quickly. "I didn't commit a crime, but someone close to him did. And I was there when it happened. I was the only other witness." A witness. My pulse kicked hard. I took a step back, trying to process. "So he thinks you'll talk? He's convinced I already have," she said, voice shaking. "He thinks I told someone back then, someone who could hurt him now. He wants to know who, and he wants to make sure I never talk again." My daughter clutched my hand tightly, her small fingers trembling. She whispered, "Mom, why didn't you tell Dad?" Emily's eyes softened at the sight of her, but the fear didn't fade. "Because I thought I could handle it. I thought if I just kept him calm, he'd leave us alone." I exhaled slowly, driving around with him, meeting him, keeping secrets from me. "That's what he told you to do? To convince him you hadn't talked?" She nodded. "He said he needed to assess my truthfulness, whatever that meant." A sick feeling twisted in my gut. "Emily, that's not protection. That's control." "I know," she whispered. I rubbed my forehead, trying to pull everything together. "So why the dashcam? Why let it record? Why didn't you take it out?" "I didn't know it was recording." Her voice broke. "He told me to remove anything that could capture him. I thought I did. That one must have been installed during my last service appointment. So he doesn't know this footage exists? She shook her head. Not yet. My mind raced. Then why did he let himself be seen in your car? Why look at us in the parking lot? Why make eye contact with me? Emily's voice dropped. Because he wanted you to notice. He wants you pulled into this. I felt a weight settle on my chest. Dense and suffocating. Why? She hesitated again. Her lips trembled. Because the person he thinks I told is you. I stared at her. What? I said quietly. He believes I confided in my husband about what happened when I was 19, she whispered. He thinks you know his secret. And if you know, he thinks you're a threat. The hallway spun a little. My daughter's grip tightened around my hand. Emily reached for me, but I stepped back without meaning to. So he's targeting me, I said. Because of something you didn't even tell me about. Emily nodded helplessly. Yes, I swallowed the rising dread. Emily, what did he do? What exactly did you witness when you were 19? Her eyes filled with tears. I can't say it here. Not in front of her. Our daughter stepped behind me, half hiding, half listening. Mom, she whispered. Are we in danger? Emily's face crumpled. Not if I do what he wants. My voice hardened. That is not an answer. She wiped her face. He said he'd contact me tonight, at 9 o'clock, and he said this time, he wants to meet you. A chill passed through me so sharply. I felt it in my teeth. Me? I said. Why? Emily hesitated. Then she whispered the sentence that made my hands go cold. He said he wants to tell you what I saw before I can. For a few seconds, none of us said anything. The house felt unnaturally still, as if even the air was waiting for my reaction. Emily's last words echoed in my head, louder with each pass. He wants to tell you what I saw before I can. My daughter stood half behind me. Her fingers curled into the fabric of my shirt. I could feel her shaking. I spoke slowly, carefully, like each word weighed more than the last. Emily, why would he want to tell me? What does he think he gains by that? She swallowed, arms wrapped around herself. Control, she whispered. He wants to control the story. He wants to decide what you believe about me. Why? I repeated. What is it he thinks you're hiding? What happened when you were 19, that he thinks would tear our family apart? Emily's eyes darted briefly toward our daughter. I can't say it in front of her. Not that. Not this. My daughter pressed closer, refusing to leave. I'm not a baby, Mom, she said softly. Whatever's happening, I want to know. But Emily shook her head, her voice breaking. Sweetheart, if you heard this, if you heard any part of it, you'd never forget it, and I can't let that happen to you. My daughter looked up at me, unsure whether to fight or obey. I knelt and brushed her hair back gently. Go to your room for a few minutes, I told her. Leave the door open. We won't be far. She didn't argue. She walked down the hall slowly, still glancing over her shoulder until she disappeared into her room. Emily and I listened until we heard her sit on the floor just inside the doorway, close enough to feel safe, far enough not to hear everything. I stood again, facing Emily. Tell me, I said. Whatever it is, tell me. Emily's voice came out thin and trembling. When I was 19, I was dating a boy named Aaron. He wasn't stable. He had a temper. But I was too young, too naive to see how dangerous he was. His older brother Nathan was worse. He was quiet, calculated, always watching. People in our town avoided him. But no one said why. They just avoided him. The name hit me strangely. The man from the car, is that Nathan? She nodded. He wasn't supposed to be anywhere near me again. Not after what happened. What happened? I asked again. Heart pounding. Emily took a long breath. One night, Aaron and Nathan got into an argument behind an old service station. I was the only one there. It escalated so fast, I barely understood what I was seeing. Nathan had a way of pushing people until they snapped. And Aaron, he finally did. He shoved Nathan. Nathan shoved back. And then Aaron hit the ground hard. My jaw tightened. Did he die? No, Emily whispered. But he didn't get up either. He was breathing, barely, but he wasn't conscious. And Nathan, he didn't call for help. He didn't even check on him. He just looked at me and said, "You didn't see anything." A cold weight formed in my chest. And you believed him. I was terrified, she said. Nathan had a reputation for making problems disappear. That's what people whispered. And Aaron had no family left but him. I panicked. I ran, and I never told anyone. I stared at her, trying to assemble the pieces. So you didn't witness a crime. You witnessed an accident. Emily shook her head, tears slipping down her cheeks. It wasn't an accident, David. Not entirely. Nathan set it up. He provoked Aaron until he reacted. He wanted him out of the way, and sometime that night, after I left, Aaron disappeared, vanished. No body, no report, nothing. My stomach flipped. Emily, are you saying Nathan murdered his own brother? I don't know what happened after I left, she whispered. But something happened. Something he never wanted tied back to him, and he believed I saw enough to destroy his life. And now, I said slowly, he thinks you told me. Emily nodded. He said he's going to clarify the truth tonight. At 9, I looked at the clock on the hallway wall. 8:12 p.m. Where does he want to meet? I asked. A parking lot off Route 7, she said. The old lumber yard. He picked somewhere isolated. Of course he did. Men like Nathan didn't choose public places. They chose spaces where they controlled every angle. I took a deep breath and forced myself to think clearly. You're not going alone. I'm coming with you. Emily grabbed my wrist. David, no. If he sees both of us, he might. He already wants me there, I said. He wants to tell me the truth. Remember, I'm not letting you face him without me. Her eyes filled again. I never wanted you dragged into this. I thought if I stayed quiet, if I kept meeting him, if I let him evaluate me, he'd let us go. I shook my head. Emily, you were never going to satisfy him. Men like him don't stop. They escalate. She didn't argue. She knew I was right. Our daughter called from her doorway. Dad, she asked, timidly. Are we going somewhere? I walked to her room and knelt again. Sweetheart, I said gently. Mom and I need to step out for a little while tonight. Can I come? No, I said immediately. You stay here. We won't be long. Her eyes flicked between us, reading our fear more clearly than we intended. Is this about the man in the car? I hesitated. Yes. Her small throat bobbed as she swallowed. Is he going to hurt you? No, I said firmly, putting more confidence in my voice than I felt. I won't let that happen. She leaned forward and hugged me tightly, arms around my neck like she did when she was 5 and afraid of thunderstorms. Come back, she whispered. I held her longer than I meant to. We will, when I stood again. Emily was watching us with that same hollow fear in her eyes. Not fear of Nathan. Fear of what she'd done by staying silent all these years. I grabbed the dashcam off the bed. It felt heavier than it should have. Evidence. Leverage. Or a target on our backs, depending on whether Nathan knew it existed. Emily saw me take it. David, what are you doing? Bringing this, I said. If he wants to clarify the truth, he can do it on record. She looked horrified. He'll kill us if he sees that. He won't, I said, though I wasn't entirely sure. But I'm not walking into that meeting blind. We headed downstairs, 8:29 p.m. Every step felt deliberate. Final, at the front door, I paused. Emily, I said quietly, is there anything else I need to know before we meet him? Anything at all? She hesitated. Her silence felt like another confession. Finally she whispered, David, when I said he thinks I told you, I meant recently. I frowned. Recently? Meaning what? She looked at me, eyes wide, terrified. Meaning he thinks someone in this house has been talking to him. My blood turned to ice. Someone in this house? Emily who would talk to him? She backed up a step, voice almost soundless. He said the person who contacted him wasn't me. I stared at her, and she whispered, David, I think he believes you reached out first. Her words didn't make sense at first. They slid into the room like smoke, shapeless, impossible to grasp. But once they settled, they left a cold residue in my chest. I stared at Emily, waiting for her to say she was mistaken, that she'd misheard him, or misunderstood. But her eyes told me she meant every word. You think I contacted him? I whispered. Emily, why in God's name would I do that? I don't think you did, she said quickly. But he does. He said someone he recognized reached out. Someone who asked questions about his past. Someone who already knew the story. The story you never told me, I said quietly. She flinched. I know. Which is why I don't understand it either. But he was certain. He said the person who contacted him had details only you could have known. And he said you used an alias, a different name. I shook my head slowly. Emily, someone is framing me. I think so too, she said. But I don't know who, or why, or how they'd know enough to pull this off. My mind spun. He said he recognized the voice, or the face. What did he say exactly? He didn't specify, she said. Just that it was him, the man married to the girl who betrayed him. And when I said that made no sense, he just smiled and said, Ask your husband where he was last month. I felt something drop in my stomach. Last month? David, were you anywhere you shouldn't be? Did someone approach you? No, I said. No one. I went to work, came home, did the same routine I've done for years. I haven't reached out to anyone. Then why would he say that? I don't know, I said. But it means one thing for sure. He's trying to turn us against each other, isolate us, make sure we walk into tonight divided. Emily rubbed her arms, as though suddenly cold. That's what he wants, isn't it? Control, leverage. Yes, I said. And fear. The clock on the wall read 8:34 p.m., 26 minutes. I picked up my coat, slipped the dashcam into the inside pocket, and turned to Emily. We need to get ahead of him, understand his angle. He's either bluffing or he has something real. David, she said softly, what if he actually believes you contacted him? What if he thinks you're the threat now? I paused with my hand on the doorknob. Then he'll show his true intentions tonight. And for the first time I saw the raw terror in her expression, not for herself, not for what she'd hidden all these years, but for me. We stepped outside into the cool night. The air felt unnervingly still, the kind of stillness you notice only when something inside you already senses danger. Emily locked the door, her hands trembling. As we walked to the car, she grabbed my arm. David, why did he call it betrayal? What, when he talked about me? He said, the girl who betrayed him. I never said anything. I never went to the police. I never told a soul what I saw. So why does he believe I betrayed him? Her eyes were wide, pleading for an explanation I didn't have. Emily, I said calmly, maybe someone else told him something years later. Maybe he thinks you were the only one who could have known. But no one else was there, she said. No one. We stood there for a moment in the dim porch light. A feeling crept through me. Slow, unwelcome. Like something I'd overlooked was standing just out of reach. I opened the car door. We'll figure it out tonight. The drive to the lumber yard took 15 minutes. Neither of us spoke during the first 10. Twythe. The streets rolled by quietly, street lamps flickering past like a metronome, marking the time until everything changed. At the 11-minute mark, Emily finally asked, what if he doesn't come alone? Then we adjust, I said. And if he's armed, I exhaled, long and slow. Then we stay in the car. We don't approach unless he signals. Emily turned her face toward the window. I hate that I dragged you into this. You didn't drag me into anything, I said. You're my wife. She closed her eyes. I kept secrets from you, and you're telling me now. It's too late, she whispered. It's already too late. We don't know that yet. But she shook her head like she was certain. Nathan never leaves loose ends. The words lingered in the car long after she stopped speaking. We turned onto Route 7. The road narrowed. Pine trees pressed close on both sides. The old lumber yard came into view, a cluster of abandoned warehouses, chain-link fences sagging with rust, a wide gravel lot cracked with weeds. 8:48 p.m. My headlights swept across the empty space. No cars, no movement. Emily's breath hitched beside me. Maybe he's not here yet, I said. Or maybe he's watching, she whispered. We parked near the center of the lot, where we had a clear view in every direction. Emily kept scanning the darkness, her hands twisting in her lap. David, she said quietly, there's something else I haven't told you. I turned to her slowly. Emily, now is not the time to drip out the truth. I know, she said, voice cracking. But part of why he thinks you contacted him is because, months ago, something happened at the hospital. I felt myself tense. What happened? A man came in asking for me, she said. He claimed he was an old friend from my hometown. He asked the receptionist if I still remembered that night behind the service station. She told him I wasn't available and asked for his name. He wouldn't give one. My pulse quickened. Why didn't you tell me this? Because he left before anyone could get more information, and I didn't know if it was Nathan or someone connected to him. I didn't want to scare you. You should have told me, I said quietly. I know, she whispered. But that's not all. I stared at her. She looked down at her hands, voice trembling. 2 weeks later, someone sent a letter to the hospital addressed to me. No return address. Inside was a single sentence. What did it say? She hesitated, then whispered, Does your husband know? I closed my eyes briefly. The pieces clicked together in ways I didn't want them to. Someone had been circling us long before today. Someone had been probing, testing. Emily, I said. You never told Nathan about me contacting him because I didn't. So either someone is pretending to be me, or someone is using my name to bait him. She gripped my arm. But who would do that, and why? I didn't have an answer. But as I looked out the windshield into the dark expanse of the lumber yard, something glinted far in the distance, 2 faint headlights turning onto the gravel. Emily gasped, grabbing my sleeve. The car approached slowly, deliberately, its engine low and controlled. It stopped about 50 yards away, facing us. My chest tightened, then the driver's door opened. A man stepped out, tall, calm, moving with the confidence of someone who believed every variable was in his favor. Emily whispered. That's him. Nathan didn't come closer. He simply stood there, watching us, hands in his pockets, like he was waiting for us to make the first move. Then, in the stillness of the night, he lifted one hand and pointed at me. Not at Emily. Emily's breath hitched. David, why is he pointing at you? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. All I knew was that in that moment, Nathan smiled, and it wasn't a smile of recognition. It was a smile of confirmation, like he had just identified the man he'd been looking for all along. For a long moment, neither of us moved. The car engine hummed beneath us, steady but fragile, like even the machine sensed something was terribly wrong. Emily's nails dug into my sleeve. I watched Nathan's silhouette, still, patient, unwavering. He wasn't here to rush anything. Men like him never rushed. They let the fear bloom first. David, Emily whispered. Don't get out. Not yet. Not until we know what he wants. But he had already told us what he wanted, Without saying a word, he pointed at me, not her. He was making the message plain. You're the reason I'm here tonight. I leaned slightly closer to the windshield, studying him. Nathan didn't fidget, didn't shift weight, didn't look around. He held his ground the way a man does when he owns the terrain. Why is he looking at you like that? Emily's voice trembled, like he knows something you don't. I have no idea, I said quietly. But we won't get answers sitting here. David, we're not walking over there, I said. Before she could protest. Not until we understand the angle he thinks he has. Let's see what he does. As if on cue, Nathan reached into his coat. Emily gasped, grabbing my arm. David. Wait, I said, watching his movements. He didn't pull out a weapon. He pulled out a phone. He held it up like a man displaying proof. Then he tapped the screen, and a moment later, my phone buzzed inside the cup holder. My chest tightened. David. Emily whispered, don't answer it, but I knew I had to. If I didn't, he'd interpret it as fear, or worse, guilt. I picked up the phone and answered. Before I could say a word, a low, controlled voice filled my ear. Nice to finally meet you, David. It wasn't the voice of a man guessing who I was. It was the voice of a man certain. I forced my tone steady. Nathan. Good, he said. At least we're done pretending. A cold pulse ran through me. Why did you ask to meet me? I said. What do you think I know? Nathan chuckled quietly. A soft, almost polite sound that somehow felt more dangerous than shouting. I'll tell you in a moment, but first I want you and your wife to step out of the car. No, Emily whispered beside me, shaking her head violently. David, don't, Nathan heard her. She's nervous, he said. Understandable. Emily always did have trouble holding herself together under pressure. I clenched my teeth. We're staying inside until you explain what you want. Another quiet chuckle. David, you reached out to me. Twice. You asked the questions. You wanted this meeting. My grip tightened around the phone. I never contacted you. Of course you did, he said, using a different name, a different number. But the voice, the tone, the way you described, the accident behind the service station, only one man alive could have asked that in exactly that way. My blood ran cold. Nathan, I have no idea what you're talking about. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he began walking toward us. Emily grabbed the dashboard, like it might anchor her to the earth. David, drive, now, let's go. But something in me froze. Not from fear, from confusion. Nathan wasn't bluffing. The confidence in his voice wasn't the confidence of a man guessing. It was the confidence of a man remembering Emily. I whispered, what exactly happened that night? Everything, not just the part you told me. She shook her head frantically. I told you everything, but I wasn't sure. Nathan slowed as he approached, stopping about 20 feet from the car. He raised the phone again. Through the speaker, his voice came softer, colder. You really don't remember reaching out, do you, David? I didn't reach out, I snapped. Thoughtful hum. Then that means someone is pretending to be you. Someone who knows the story far too well. Someone who wanted me to believe it was you. He waited a moment, letting that sink in. Ask yourself this, he said. How would a stranger know what happened that night? How would a stranger know the one detail Emily never mentioned in her police statement? I blinked. She never filed a police statement. Silence. Then Nathan whispered, didn't she? Emily's breath hitched audibly. I turned to her slowly. Emily, what does he mean by that? Her eyes filled instantly. I didn't file a statement. I didn't, I swear. I never went to the police. Nathan's laugh crackled through the phone. Not the police, David. Hospital intake forms, counseling sessions, campus security interviews. She talked to several people. just not the ones who mattered. Emily shook her head rapidly. No, no, I didn't. I never said anything. I kept quiet. Did you? Nathan's voice sharpened. Or did you talk to someone you trusted? Someone who promised to keep your secret? Someone who might still be holding on to it? Emily froze, the blood draining from her face. Nathan continued. Someone who could easily impersonate your husband if they wanted information. Someone who would know what David sounds like. Someone who knew both of you at 19. My heart pounded. Nathan, if you think someone from Emily's past, he cut me off. Not her past. A long, deadly pause. Yours. I felt the air leave my lungs. My past, I repeated. I didn't know Emily when she was 19. Not directly, Nathan said. But someone close to you did. Someone very, very close. And that person knows exactly what Emily saw behind the service station. My throat tightened. Who? Nathan didn't answer. Instead, he stepped closer. Close enough that the headlights outlined his expression. Calm, assured, almost satisfied. Then he leaned slightly forward and said, with quiet finality, I'm not here because of Emily. I'm here because of you, David. Because the person who betrayed me, the person who told me Emily talked, wasn't her. He took one step closer. It was a man who claimed to be your brother. The world tilted. My brother? I whispered. Nathan, my brother has been dead for. Nathan smiled slowly. Has he? Emily gasped. David, no. He can't mean, but Nathan wasn't done. He lifted his phone, tapped something on the screen, and said, You asked for proof, so I brought it. The phone screen brightened. A video began to play. A man stepped into frame, older, but unmistakably familiar. My breath caught painfully in my throat. It was my brother, alive, staring into the camera, and saying the words that shattered the ground beneath me. David, if you're seeing this, I need you to listen. Everything you know about that night is a lie. I didn't breathe. I don't even think I blinked. The image on Nathan's phone was too unreal, too sharp, too immediate. My brother, Mark, stood in some dimly lit room, a bare bulb hanging behind him, casting a shadow that made him look both older and somehow exactly the same. His hair was peppered with gray, his jaw rough with an uneven beard, but the eyes were unmistakably his. Emily covered her mouth with her hand. David, that's not possible. I couldn't answer. My throat had tightened into something unyielding, painful. On the screen, my brother leaned closer. His voice trembled the way it used to when he was nervous. That slight stutter on the consonants he tried so hard to hide. If you're seeing this, Dave, then he found you. And I'm sorry. I truly am. I didn't mean for any of this to reach your family. I shook my head slowly, whispering, No, no, no. This doesn't make sense. Mark died in that motel fire. I saw the reports. You saw what someone wanted you to see, Nathan interrupted, his tone almost bored. And you believed it because grief makes convenient blinders. I tore my gaze away from the video. Why would Mark fake his death? Why would he vanish for 9 years? Why would he contact you? Of all people, Nathan shrugged. Because he needed someone who wasn't afraid to push back. Someone who understood what Emily had witnessed. Someone who shared certain interests. I didn't like the implication. My brother wasn't a criminal. No, Nathan said. But he wasn't as innocent as you remember either. I pointed at the phone. Where did you get that video? I didn't get it, Nathan said. It was sent to me, directly. Just like the messages he said came from you. A dull ringing began in my ears. Sent by Mark? Nathan nodded once. He claimed he wanted to clear the air, that Emily had told you something she shouldn't have. He told me that if I didn't handle it, he would. Emily trembled beside me. David, your brother never knew me. Never. Are you sure he He didn't, I said. There's no way. I looked at Nathan. What exactly did he say? Word for word. Nathan took a moment, as if savoring the tension. Then he repeated it calmly. David knows, Nathan. Emily talked. You should deal with it before he does. I stared at him. My brother would never say that. He didn't even know Emily existed back then. Nathan raised an eyebrow. Then ask yourself why his face appears here. He lifted the phone again. Why he's speaking to you directly. My chest tightened around something sharp, something I didn't want to acknowledge. Because in the video, Mark didn't look coerced. He didn't look like a hostage reading a script. He looked determined. Fearful, but purposeful. He continued speaking on the video. Dave, I know you're confused. I know you're angry. But you need to understand what Emily saw that night wasn't the whole story. And what Nathan did afterward. It wasn't the only crime. Emily jerked at that. What does he mean? I told you everything I witnessed. There was nothing else. Mark's voice echoed faintly. Nathan wasn't alone behind that service station. Someone else was there before Emily arrived. And that person was me. Emily looked at me, horrified. David, your brother was there? I stared at the phone screen as Mark kept talking. I was with Nathan earlier that evening. We got into an argument. I left before the fight between him and Aaron, but I didn't go far. I saw more than Emily did, and I stayed quiet because I was scared. Not of him. Of myself. Nathan scoffed quietly beside his car. We all have our confessions, don't we? The video continued. Mark looked down, as if weighing his words. I didn't kill anyone, but I made a mistake that night, one that set everything in motion. And Nathan, he found out. He used it to keep me silent, to make me disappear when he needed me gone. Emily touched my arm. David, what mistake is he talking about? But I couldn't speak. My brother drew a shaky breath. Nathan told me he would hurt you if I ever talked. You, not Emily, not Mom, you. So I ran. I faked the fire, and I stayed hidden. But when Emily resurfaced in his world again, I panicked. Emily blinked. What do you mean resurfaced? Nathan smiled faintly. She applied for a nursing license renewal. Background checks. Database flags. I monitor certain records. Emily stiffened. So you knew where I was for years. You just waited. I wait for necessity, he replied simply. Mark's video continued. Halting. Urgent. I reached out to him pretending to be you because I knew he'd believe you more than anyone. I thought if he focused on you, Emily would be safe. Emily let out a broken sound. Safe? He put my family in danger. On the screen, Mark swallowed hard. I didn't think he'd call your bluff, Dave. I didn't think he would drag you into it. I thought he'd confront you. You'd deny everything, and it would end there. But he wants blood now. He wants a debt repaid. I felt something rupture inside. Debt? What debt? Nathan's expression hardened. But he didn't answer. The video gave the answer instead. Mark leaned forward, eyes filled with regret. Dave, I owe him something. Something I took that night. Something he's been searching for ever since. I whispered. What did you take? Mark's lips trembled. A key. Emily frowned. A key to what? My brother hesitated. Then he whispered. A storage unit. One Nathan used for years. It holds what he can't allow the world to see. And he thinks you have the key now. Because I told him, I left it with you. Emily inhaled sharply. David, did he? No, I said instantly. I haven't seen Mark since he was alive. Nathan finally stepped closer, stopping just outside the glow of our headlights. He thinks you're lying, Nathan said calmly. Mark believes he left the key in your possession before he disappeared. He says he slipped it into a book in your office the night before the fire. My pulse hammered. What book? Nathan smiled thinly. A journal. Something you wrote in during your first marriage. My breath hitched. I threw that journal away years ago. Did you? Nathan asked. Or did someone retrieve it while you were sleeping? The accusation struck like a blade. Emily turned to me slowly, fear unfurling across her face. David, your brother was in our house? The video reached its final seconds. Mark's voice cracked. If you don't have the key, Dave, then he thinks you hid it. And if he thinks you hid it, he will force the truth out of you. Tonight, the video ended. Silence hung heavy in the car. Emily trembled violently. David, how did your brother even know about that journal? He never visited our home. You kept it in your office drawer. How could he? I didn't answer. Because deep in the back of my mind, something clicked, a memory. A detail I'd overlooked for years because grief had sealed it away. A night. 8 years ago, when I woke to the faint creak of a floorboard downstairs, I thought it was the cat, or settling wood. I never checked, never imagined the alternative. A shadow in the hallway, a figure I dismissed as a trick of exhaustion. My breath caught. Emily, I whispered. I think he was here. I think Mark was in our house before he disappeared. She covered her mouth again. Oh my God. Outside, Nathan lowered the phone, his expression calm, resolved. Now you understand, he said. This isn't about Emily anymore. It never was. Tonight, David, you tell me where that key is, and if I don't, I asked quietly. Nathan didn't smile. He simply stepped aside, and from behind his car, another door opened. A second man stepped out. A man with my brother's build, my brother's stance, my brother's face, and Emily whispered, now barely audible, David, that's not a video. For a second, my mind refused to process what I was seeing. The man stepping out from behind Nathan's car wasn't grainy or flickering like the video. He was real, solid. The way his shoulders moved, the slight limp in his left leg, an old football injury from high school, the way he scanned the lot before looking directly at me. Every small gesture struck something deep and familiar. Emily grabbed my wrist so tightly I felt her nails press into my skin. David, that's him. That's your brother. I couldn't speak. My chest tightened painfully, like my ribs were trying to collapse inward. The man, my brother, kept walking forward until he stood a few steps behind Nathan, not beside him, not hidden, but present, fully present. His voice carried across the cold, empty space. Dave, just my name. But hearing it after 9 years felt like being split open. My hand trembled on the steering wheel. Mark, he nodded once. No smile, no relief, no joy at seeing me after nearly a decade. His expression was worn, hollow, and edged with something I had never seen in him before. Fear mixed with resignation. Emily whispered, David, how is he alive? I couldn't answer. My heart was pounding so hard it drowned out everything else. Nathan turned slightly toward Mark. I told you he'd come. He's predictable, like all men trying to protect what they love. Emily stiffened beside me. Nathan looked back at me. Well, David, will you get out of the car now? Or do you need more convincing? My brother took a hesitant step forward. Dave, please, just come out. We don't have much time. The urgency in his tone cut through the panic fog in my mind. I opened the door before Emily could stop me. David, no, she cried, grabbing at my arm. I put my hand on her shoulder. Stay in the car. Lock the doors. I'm not letting you walk into this alone. You're not, I said softly. You're right here. But I need to hear him. I need to know why. Her eyes welled, but she didn't argue. She pressed the lock as soon as I shut the door behind me. The gravel crunched under my feet as I walked forward, the cold air filling my lungs like ice. I stopped about 15 feet from Nathan and kept my eyes on my brother. Mark, I said, my voice shaking. You died, I grieved you. Mom grieved you. We buried a closed casket. How? Why? He exhaled slowly. I know, and I'm sorry. But I didn't have a choice. That's a lie, Nathan said, looking mildly amused. Everyone has choices. Some just choose cowardice. Mark didn't respond. He kept his eyes on me. Dave, he said quietly. I wasn't supposed to survive that night. Nathan made that very clear. I faked the fire because I needed a way out, one he wouldn't anticipate. But after I vanished, I realized disappearing created its own problems. Nathan wasn't done with me. He still isn't. Nathan smiled thinly. You took something from me, Mark. That tends to complicate relationships. Emily stared through the windshield, pale as paper. She was watching every word. I took a step closer. The key. The storage unit. All of this chaos is because of that. Nathan's eyes sharpened. Not just because he took it, because he hid it. And because he claimed he hid it with you. I didn't, I said. I never saw him after that night. I didn't know he was alive. Nathan's expression didn't change. Then where is it? I don't know. The words tore out of me, louder than I intended. The echo bounced off the empty warehouses. My brother looked down, as though ashamed. Dave, when I said I left it with you, I wasn't lying. I hid it in your house. My stomach dropped, but I would have found it. I would have seen it. Not necessarily, Mark said. You never opened that journal again after the divorce. You boxed up those things and shoved them in the attic. They sat there for years until someone took them. I froze. Took them, Mark nodded. Your old office things? Emily moved them last year when you renovated the study. She put half the boxes in the garage and donated the others. Emily's mouth parted in horror through the windshield. Oh my God, she whispered. The charity pickup. I didn't check the boxes. I just let them take everything. A cold wave washed over me. If the key was in the journal, and the journal had been donated, Nathan's calm voice broke through. So we have a problem. The key is missing, and the only man who knows where it ended up, he gestured lazily toward Mark, is standing right there. My brother's face tensed. I don't know where it is. I hid it before I left. It must have been donated with the rest. I didn't predict Emily would clean out the attic. Nathan sighed, as though genuinely disappointed. You always did underestimate consequences, Mark. My brother flinched. Is that why you contacted him? I asked. Why you pretended to be me? Why drag me into this at all? Mark looked tortured. Because I thought, if he believed you knew something, he'd go after you instead of Emily. I didn't want him near her, near your daughter. Near your daughter, near, you weaponized me. I said, voice cracking. You used me as a shield. I'm sorry, he whispered. I had no one else. That's not true, I snapped. You had me. You always had me. He shook his head weakly. Not with this. Not with what I did. I felt something shift in Nathan's posture. A small, subtle change that made the hairs on my arms rise. He was done letting us talk. He lifted his hand. Enough, Nathan said. Here is how tonight will go. You, David, are going to tell me where the key is. Your wife is going to stop lying, and your brother is going to stop pretending he doesn't know more than he's saying. Emily pounded on the car window. David, get back in the car, please. Nathan didn't look at her. His eyes were on me. David, he said softly, if you don't give me the location of that key in the next minute, I will start taking pieces of your life apart, one by one, starting with her. He tilted his head toward Emily. That was enough. I stepped forward. Nathan, listen. But my brother suddenly moved. Don't, Mark shouted. He grabbed Nathan's arm. Nathan froze, not surprised, not threatened, just annoyed. And then his voice turned colder than winter cement. You really shouldn't have done that. What happened next was fast. Too fast for my mind to fully register. Nathan pulled something from inside his coat. Emily screamed inside the car. I lunged forward without thinking, but Mark was already stepping between us, raising both hands like a man surrendering. "Stop," Mark said hoarsely. "Stop. I'll talk. I'll tell you everything. Just leave them out of it." Nathan nodded once. Then he said quietly, "Then let's finish what we started 9 years ago." My heart hammered. "Mark, don't you dare." But my brother turned to me, eyes glistening in the dim light. "Dave, I'm sorry." "No," I said. "Don't do this." He took a long breath, and then he said, "You need to know the truth before he kills me." For a moment everything around me seemed to slip out of focus. The trees, the empty warehouses, the gravel under my feet. All I could see was my brother, breathing hard, squared shoulders trembling as if he were holding up something too heavy to keep carrying. The night air felt thick enough to choke on. "Mark," I said, my voice uneven, "don't say things like that. No one is killing you tonight." He gave me a sad, tired smile, the kind he used to give when he'd gotten himself into trouble at school and didn't know how to ask for help. "Dave, I've been running for 9 years. I can't outrun this anymore." Nathan stood calmly beside him, the weapon angled downward, but unmistakably ready. The way he watched us reminded me of a surgeon waiting patiently for anesthesia to take effect, clinical, detached, but invested in the outcome. Emily pounded again on the inside of the car window. "David, get away from him. Both of you, get away from him." Nathan didn't even turn toward her. "She's louder than I remember," he muttered. Mark ignored him. "Dave, there's something you never knew about that night. Something I didn't put in the video because I needed to say it to your face. You deserve that much." I took a step closer. "Whatever it is, we deal with it together. But you're not dying. Not tonight. Not for Nathan's sake." My brother shook his head. "You don't understand. I didn't just witness something behind that service station. I was tied to it, more than you know." I clenched my jaw. "Tell me exactly what you did." Mark took a shuddering breath. "That night, Aaron wasn't supposed to meet Nathan alone. He was supposed to meet both of us. Me and Nathan. We had an agreement. Aaron thought he was getting money owed cash from a side job with my construction crew. But Nathan wanted to confront him about something else. Something bigger." Emily watched from inside the car, both hands pressed against the glass, eyes wide with terror. She couldn't hear the details, but she saw everything in the way Mark carried himself. "What did Nathan want?" I asked. Mark hesitated, eyes flicking briefly toward the warehouses, as though revisiting a scene burned into memory. Nathan learned Aaron had uncovered something about him. Something in that storage unit. Something that could have destroyed him. I don't even know what it was. But Aaron confronted Nathan about it. A week before everything happened, he wanted leverage. Nathan's face remained unreadable, but I saw a faint tightening in his jaw. "Go on," I urged. "Aaron panicked," Mark said. "He came to me. Said he'd found something in Nathan's unit by accident. Something that didn't add up. He wanted out. He wanted protection, and stupidly I told him I'd stand by him." I stared. "You tried to help him?" "I tried," Mark said quietly. "But when we showed up that night, Nathan was already in a mood I'd never seen before. He kept pushing Aaron, baiting him, twisting everything he said. At some point I realized he didn't want answers. He wanted a reaction. A fight," I whispered. "Yes," Mark breathed. Nathan wanted Aaron rattled. Angry. Off balance. Because whatever Aaron had found, Nathan needed him gone. Emily let out a faint cry inside the car. She had pressed her forehead to the window now, as if listening through sheer force of will. Nathan finally spoke. Aaron wasn't steady. He made threats. Useless ones. He never understood the gravity of what he'd stumbled into. I gave him chances to walk away, to leave town quietly. He refused every one of them. Mark turned toward Nathan sharply. "You didn't give him a chance. You cornered him." Nathan didn't deny it. I swallowed. "So what did you do, Mark?" What was your part in this? My brother lowered his head. I was supposed to be the calming force, the buffer, the one who convinced Aaron to back down, but I didn't know how far Nathan would take it. I didn't know he'd let Aaron fall like that. And when Aaron hit the ground, I froze. I didn't help. I didn't call for anyone. I just stood there like a coward. I felt something crack inside me. Not anger, not disappointment, but heartbreak. Mark, you were a kid. You were scared. It doesn't matter, he whispered. What matters is what happened next. We waited. He looked up, eyes glistening. Nathan told me to leave. And I listened. I left Aaron lying there and I walked away. But before I drove off, I saw something. Something I've never told anyone. Nathan's gaze sharpened. My brother kept speaking, voice shaking. I saw Nathan lift Aaron's body. He wasn't dead, Dave. He was barely conscious. But Nathan loaded him into the back of his truck. He didn't try to help him. He didn't take him to a hospital. He drove into the woods instead. Emily let out a faint sob. I whispered, so Aaron didn't vanish. Nathan made him vanish. Nathan didn't bother to respond. And the key? I asked. What does it open? Mark swallowed hard. The unit where Nathan stored records of everything he'd done. Transactions. Names. Evidence. Aaron must have found something there. He wasn't meant to. Something dangerous. Nathan sighed. He found a list. A very delicate list. Not meant for amateurs. What list? I asked. He stepped closer. The names of people who owed me. People whose secrets belonged to me. And people who were supposed to stay quiet. Emily's hand slapped the window again. David, please come back. He's too close. I lifted a hand toward her without looking back. It's okay, but it wasn't okay. The night felt ready to collapse in on itself. I turned to Mark. Why didn't you come to me? Why pretend to be me? My brother's voice broke. Because I knew Nathan would believe you more than anyone. I knew he feared you more than he feared me. Why? I asked. Genuinely confused, Nathan answered instead. Because your brother talked about you constantly. He said you were the only man he ever feared disappointing. Said you were a protector. Said if you ever learned what happened that night, you'd come for me. The words hit harder than I expected. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. Didn't blink. David. Emily whispered from inside the car, don't listen to him. Nathan continued calmly. So when I received a message from someone claiming to be you, asking about the key, asking whether the boy behind the station was dead, it felt right. It felt like the inevitable, finally catching up. I shook my head. I sent nothing. And then Mark whispered, voice cracking. I did. The world tilted. What? I said. My brother broke, visibly, completely. I used your name. I used your old voicemail greeting from before your number changed. I mimicked your tone. I knew he'd believe it was you. I was desperate, Dave. I thought if he feared you were getting involved, he'd back off. Nathan scoffed. He overestimated you. You're far more passive than he remembered. I barely heard him. You did this, I whispered. You dragged my family into this. Mark covered his face. I know I did. And that's why you need to let me fix it. Fix it how? I demanded. He stepped forward, by giving him what he wants. No, I said instantly. Mark, you don't even know where the key is. I do now, he whispered. My chest tightened. What are you talking about? Mark met my eyes with quiet devastation. Dave, Emily didn't donate all the boxes. I blinked. What? There was one box she forgot, he said. A small one. It never left your garage. I saw it the night I broke in to check. Emily's voice rose inside the car. What box? What box? The one labeled Old Journals. Mark exhaled. The key is inside. It's been inside your house this whole time. A tremor ran down my spine. "Where?" I whispered. Mark looked at Nathan, then at me, and then he said, "Behind the insulation panel in the garage. The one you patched after the storm. I hid the journal inside it the night before I disappeared." Before I could react, before I could even process, the sharp click of a safety being released shattered the air. Nathan raised the weapon fully. "Well," he said quietly, "now that we finally have the location." Emily screamed. I lunged forward. My brother closed his eyes, and Nathan pulled the trigger. The gunshot split the night in half. A sharp flash, a crack, that echoed off the abandoned warehouses, and for a split second the world froze. No air, no movement, no thought. I didn't even know who had been hit. My ears rang violently. My body reacted before my mind caught up. I lunged, reached, grabbed, and then I felt him fall. Mark collapsed against me. Heavy and limp, the weight of 9 stolen years crashing into my arms all at once. His knees buckled, and I went down with him, gravel biting into my palms as I tried to keep him upright. Emily screamed inside the car, one long primal sound that tore through everything. "Mark," I shouted, lowering him gently onto the ground. "Mark, look at me. Look at me." His eyes fluttered open. Pain rippled across his face, but he was alive, barely. The bullet had torn through his shoulder, high enough to miss the heart, low enough to bleed, like a burst vein. Nathan lowered the gun with an indifferent expression. "Relax. If I wanted him dead, he'd be dead. There was simply needed him quiet." I snapped my head toward him, rage boiling inside me. "You didn't have to shoot him." He considered that, then shrugged casually. "He talks too much." Emily unlocked the car door and threw herself out of it, stumbling toward us. She dropped to her knees, beside my brother, tears streaking down her face. "Oh God. Oh God, Mark. Stay awake. Stay awake." Mark grimaced, swallowing hard. I'm okay," he breathed, though his voice trembled violently. "No, you're not," I said. "We're calling an ambulance right now." "No," Nathan said calmly. "You're not." He took one step forward, the gravel crunching beneath his boots, and raised the gun again, this time pointing it squarely at Emily. "Don't," I whispered, rising slowly. "You found the key," Nathan said. "That means tonight ends clean, but it ends on my terms. All of you stay exactly where you are, until I decide otherwise." Emily froze beside me. The shaking in her hands became visible, uncontrollable. My brother coughed hard, blood pooling at the corner of his mouth. Nathan shifted the gun slightly, enough to remind us he held every advantage. "David," he said, more softly, "you're going to drive home. You're going to retrieve the journal from your garage, and you're going to bring it to me. Right now." I stared at him. "And after that?" "You let us go?" Nathan smiled thinly. "After that, I'll consider letting you live." Emily gasped. "Consider?" "Emily," I said sharply. "Stop." She fell silent, trembling. I turned back to Nathan. "I'm not leaving my brother here to bleed out while you hold a gun on my wife." Nathan tilted his head. "Your brother will survive for an hour if you hurry. If you don't, well, then perhaps this story will have the ending it always should have." Something inside me snapped, but I kept my voice steady. "You want the key that badly? Fine. But you're not touching my family again." Nathan didn't blink. "Then go get it." I didn't move, and that's when Mark lifted his hand weakly, grabbing my sleeve. "Dave," he rasped, "go. He'll kill her. And he'll kill me next." I knelt beside him. "You're coming with us." He shook his head with what little strength he had. "I can't move, and if you try, he'll put a bullet in all 3 of us. Go. Now." I looked at Emily. Her face had gone white, lips trembling uncontrollably. "David," she whispered, "please do what he says. It felt like swallowing broken glass. But I nodded and stood. "Fine," I said to Nathan. "I'll go get the key, but she stays with me." "No." Nathan's voice was final. "Emily stays here." I stepped toward him. "That wasn't the deal." "There was no deal," he replied. Unconcerned, "There were instructions. She stays." My pulse hammered. "Then take me hostage instead." Nathan almost laughed. "Oh, I don't need a hostage. If you don't return in 30 minutes, he pointed the gun at Emily again, "I'll send you a reminder." Emily let out a broken sob. I clenched my fists so hard my knuckles burned. "You hurt her, and you'll never get the key." "I don't need the key," Nathan said coolly. "I need the contents of the unit. And if you force my hand, I'll find other ways to get them. People always talk when they're afraid enough." I stared at him, fury building like heat behind my eyes. But then Mark's voice cut through everything. "Dave," he whispered. "He's not lying. Duh." I turned to my brother, saw the blood pooling around him, saw his chest heaving with effort, and I understood. If I stayed, Nathan would kill one of them. If I left, maybe I could stop this. I exhaled once, long and slow. "Emily," I said gently. "I'll be back. I promise." She reached out and grabbed my hand, squeezing as if she could anchor me beside her. Tears streamed down her face. "David, please don't leave me." My voice broke. "I have to. For you." Nathan cocked the gun. "Time is running." I forced myself to let Emily's fingers slip from mine. Then I turned and walked toward our car. Every step felt like it was carrying me further away from the life I thought I understood. From the family I believed I could always protect. From the truth I'd spent decades never needing to question. As I reached the car door, I looked back one last time. Nathan stood over my brother like a shadow stretching over old wounds. Emily knelt beside Mark, her hands pressed to his shoulder, desperate to stop the bleeding. Both of them looked at me with terror and trust, tangled together. And in that moment, as the headlights illuminated the cracked gravel and the cold breath of the night settled over everything, I realized something horrifying. Nathan didn't need the key. He needed the chaos. He needed the leverage. He needed the fracture in our family to widen until it broke. He wanted us divided. He wanted us desperate. He wanted us weak. I slid into the driver's seat, started the engine, and stared out at them one last time. Then, through the ringing in my ears, through the roar of the engine, through the weight of everything unraveling at once, I heard my brother shout something faintly. "Dave, don't trust." A gunshot cracked. Emily screamed, and the line between survival and catastrophe snapped in half. As I sped into the night, gravel spraying behind me, one question slammed harder than any other. Who did Nathan shoot? And the more terrifying question that followed, when I return, will any of them still be alive?